What if the money in your bank account is actually the riskiest asset you own, and the thing everyone calls too risky is actually the safest place to put your energy? Sit with that for a second, because by the end of this you might not look at a dollar bill the same way again. Today we're going deep into 3 ideas that are colliding right now, in real time, in a way that hasn't happened before in human history. The rise of a new kind of digital property, the arrival of an intelligence that thinks faster than any of us, and the old, unglamorous discipline of building something that actually lasts. Stick around, because this isn't just theory, it's a blueprint. Let's start with a simple question. What is money, really? For most of history, humans have been trying to solve one problem. How do you take your labor, your time, your energy, the actual hours of your one life, and store it somewhere safe so you can spend it later? Gold worked for a while. It's scarce, it's hard to fake, and it holds up over centuries. But gold is heavy. It's hard to move, hard to verify, and painfully easy to steal if you know where to look. Paper currency solved the portability problem, but it created a new one. Someone, somewhere, can always print more of it. Every dollar you hold quietly loses a little value every year, not because you did anything wrong, but because the supply behind it keeps growing. That's the quiet tax nobody votes on. Now imagine a form of property that doesn't rely on a vault, a bank, or a government promise. Imagine an asset whose scarcity isn't enforced by a company or a country, but by mathematics, code that every computer in the network agrees to follow, with a hard cap that nobody can quietly raise in a back room. That's the pitch behind Bitcoin, and it's worth understanding on its own terms, separate from the hype and the price charts. At its core, Bitcoin is a ledger, a giant, shared notebook copied across thousands of computers around the world, where every transaction is recorded and locked in place using cryptography. Nobody owns the notebook. Everybody who runs the software has a copy of it, and the only way to move value inside it is with a private key, a string of characters that functions like a digital key to a vault only you control. No bank can freeze it. No third party can quietly dilute it. If you lose the key, nobody can help you, which sounds terrifying until you realize that's also exactly why nobody can take it from you either. Think of it this way. A gold bar is physical, but it needs physical protection, a safe, a guard, a building. A bank account is convenient, but it's really just a number in someone else's database, and that someone can freeze it, tax it, or inflate the currency it's denominated in. Bitcoin flips the equation. It's property you can carry in your memory, across any border, through any customs checkpoint, and reconstruct anywhere on Earth with an internet connection. That's a genuinely new category of asset. It doesn't mean it's risk-free. The price swings hard, regulation is still evolving, and it demands real personal responsibility, because there's no customer service line to call if you make a mistake. But strip away the noise and what you're left with is a fairly elegant idea, a way to store economic energy that doesn't depend on trusting an institution to behave itself for the next 50 years. Now let's turn to the second force reshaping everything, and this one moves even faster: artificial intelligence. A few years ago, AI was a research curiosity. Today it's a tool sitting in your pocket that can write code, analyze contracts, summarize 100 pages in 10 seconds, and hold a genuinely useful conversation about almost any topic on Earth. The mistake most people make with AI is treating it like a search engine, asking it questions that already have 1,000 answers on the internet. That's a waste of its real power. The people getting extraordinary results from AI right now are the ones asking it questions nobody has ever asked before. Not, what is the capital of France, but, given these specific constraints, what's a financial structure that has never existed until this exact moment, that solves this exact problem I'm facing? That's a completely different use of the tool, and it's where the real leverage lives. Here's the deeper shift happening underneath all of this. For most of history, the limiting factor on progress was human labor and human attention. There were only so many smart people, and only so many hours in their day. AI breaks that constraint. It doesn't get tired, it doesn't need to sleep, and it can hold far more context in its mind at once than any person can. Pair that with robotics, and you're looking at a world where physical work and cognitive work are both becoming radically cheaper to produce at scale. That's not a small trend. That's a fundamental rewrite of how value gets created. And it's happening on a curve that keeps bending upward, which means the gap between people who learn to direct this intelligence and people who ignore it is going to widen fast, probably faster than most of us are emotionally prepared for. So what do you actually do with that information? This is where the third idea comes in, and it's the one that ties everything together: the discipline of playing a long game in a world obsessed with the short one. It's tempting, when you see two forces moving this fast, to panic chase every new opportunity, jump into whatever asset is trending this month, pivot your career every time a new tool goes viral, treat your attention like a slot machine. That instinct is completely understandable, and it's also almost always a losing strategy. The people who build real, durable wealth, financial or otherwise, tend to do the opposite. They pick one domain. They go deep. They stay there for years, sometimes decades, long after it stops being exciting, long after the applause has moved on onto someone else's project. That's what actually builds a moat. Not luck, not timing, not being first, endurance. Doing hard, scarce, high-quality work in one lane for long enough that almost nobody can catch up to you, because almost nobody is willing to stay that long. Let's make this concrete with 10 simple rules. Call them operating principles for anyone trying to build something that lasts, whether that's a business, a body of knowledge, or a body of work. Rule 1. Curate your environment ruthlessly. The 5 people you spend the most time with, the content you consume every morning, the room you sit in while you work, all of it is quietly shaping your standards, whether you notice it or not. Choose it on purpose. Rule 2. Keep your promises, especially the small ones. Trust compounds exactly like interest does, and it compounds even faster when you're the person who does what they said they'd do, every single time, without needing to be reminded. Rule 3. Stay cheerful and constructive, particularly when things are going wrong. Anyone can be pleasant when everything's easy. The people who actually get remembered and relied on are the ones who stay steady and useful in the middle of a mess. Rule 4. Study history, not just headlines. The news cycle wants your attention for the next 24 hours. History gives you a 5,000-year sample size of how humans actually behave under pressure, prosperity, and collapse, and that sample size is worth more than any single week of commentary. Reading something like Will Durant's sweeping history of civilization isn't nostalgia, it's pattern recognition training for the rest of your life. Rule 5. Protect your time like it's the only truly non-renewable resource you have, because it is. You can always make more money. You cannot make more hours. Rule 6. Say no to almost everything, so you can say yes completely to the few things that matter. Diluted focus produces diluted results, every time, no exceptions. Rule 7. Measure yourself against your own long-term trajectory, not against someone else's highlight reel this week. Comparison at the wrong time scale will make you quit right before the compounding was about to start working in your favor. Rule 8. Treat setbacks as data, not verdicts. A failed attempt tells you something true about the world. It doesn't tell you who you are. Rule 9. Build things that don't need you to babysit them forever. Systems, assets, reputations, skills, so your effort from 5 years ago is still quietly working for you today. And Rule 10. Maybe the simplest and hardest one. Choose one mountain and start climbing. Not 3 mountains at once. 1. Depth beats breadth almost every time, over almost any long enough timeline. Put these 3 threads together and a picture starts to form. There's a new kind of scarce digital property that lets you store the value of your work outside the reach of institutions that can quietly dilute it. There's a new kind of intelligence that can multiply your output if you're willing to ask it questions nobody else has thought to ask. And there's an old, unfashionable discipline, patience, focus, integrity, depth that determines whether any of that technological advantage actually turns into something durable or just evaporates in another cycle of hype. None of these ideas work in isolation. Scarce assets without patience become speculation. Powerful tools without direction become distraction. And discipline without adapting to new tools just means doing yesterday's job extremely well, right up until it disappears. The real opportunity, the one most people are going to miss simply because it doesn't fit into a single headline, is learning to hold all 3 at once. Store your energy in something that can't be quietly debased. Use the smartest tool humanity has ever built to ask better questions than anyone around you is asking. And do it all inside a long, boring, unglamorous commitment to one domain, built one kept promise at a time. That's not a get-rich-quick formula, and honestly, if that's what you were hoping for, this probably isn't the video for you. It's a get-rich-slow formula, dressed up in some of the fastest-moving technology on the planet. The tools are new. The principle underneath them is as old as civilization itself. The people who compound quietly, for the longest time, in one direction, tend to win. Everyone else is just trading noise for noise. So the real question isn't whether these shifts are coming. They're already here. The question is what you're going to build with them, and whether you're willing to stay at it long enough to find out.